In testimony before the United States House of Representatives, was asked by Congressman Jamie Raskin why she has not indicted a single client of Jeffrey Epstein. And again, why have you not indicted any of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? And this is Pam Bondi's answer.
The Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about.
But you are the Attorney General of the United States of America who said you had the Epstein file on your desk, and you did not, and did the dog and pony show with the white binders. And now this is your answer? Can Pam Bondi please resign or be fired?
Hello and welcome, guys. Adam is here, so let's start. And if you think the walls aren't closing in on Trump's Justice Department, think again. Because what just happened at that congressional hearing was nothing short of a complete meltdown.
To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, went in front of Congress to answer questions about the Epstein files, and she absolutely imploded. She shrieked at lawmakers. She called them washed-up losers.
So I really have just one question for you. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it.
Before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order. Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
She refused to answer basic questions about whether she'd investigate new leads. She rattled off economic data like she was the Secretary of Commerce instead of the top law enforcement officer in the country. And now, MAGA right-wing influencers like Eric Ericson are calling for her resignation or termination. The very people who supported her as a competent pick in 2024 are now demanding she be fired. This is not a partisan attack. This is Trump's own base turning on his hand-picked attorney general, and Trump is watching his control slip away in real time. Let's start with the moment that broke everything. Eric Ericson, a conservative influencer who backed Bondi as recently as last year, summarized his outrage in one specific exchange. When Congressman Jamie Raskin asked Bondi directly whether she was going to prosecute anyone based on the new information in the Epstein files, instead of answering, she started reciting economic statistics about Donald Trump. The Dow Jones at 50,000, job numbers, economic growth. She completely dodged the question, and Ericson looked at that and said she needs to go. When the MAGA base starts turning on your appointees, you have a massive problem. But let's rewind and look at the full picture of what happened at that hearing because it was even worse than the clips show. Karen Freeman and Nick Nolano joined us to break down what they witnessed, and their assessment was brutal. Karen called it the worst congressional hearing she's ever watched. She said it was an embarrassment to the American people. Bondi was shrieking at members of Congress. She spoke in unprofessional ways. She called lawmakers washed-up losers. And this wasn't just directed at Democrats. This was her treating elected representatives with complete contempt regardless of party. But the substance was even more damning than the style. Bondi refused to answer actual questions. There were legitimate inquiries posed to her about the Epstein files, about investigations, about what the Justice Department was actually doing, and she deflected every single one. The most heartbreaking part involved the Epstein survivors sitting in the room behind her. Members of Congress had them stand up and ask directly, "Have you spoken to this Department of Justice?" Not a single one had. Not one survivor had been contacted by the FBI or anyone in Bondi's department, and when this was raised, Bondi's response was essentially, "Well, you can call 1-800-FBI." Think about that. Survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking operation, people who have been waiting years for justice, sitting in a congressional hearing, and the Attorney General of the United States tells them to call a hotline. She wouldn't even turn around and acknowledge them. She showed zero empathy. She gaslit them in real time. And this is the person responsible for investigating the crimes they survived. Then there was the question from Congressman Jamie Raskin that should have been the easiest answer in the world. He asked Bondi if she would create a task force to investigate the crimes revealed in the Epstein files. Not a partisan question. Not a gotcha. Just, will you create a task force to investigate? Her response was to go on a tirade about some unrelated crime in Raskin's district. She completely refused to answer whether she'd investigate Epstein leads. And as Karen pointed out, that single moment disqualifies her from being Attorney General. If you can't answer yes to investigating sex trafficking, what are you even doing in that job? The clips that circulated after the hearing were brutal. Midas Touch put together a compilation of Bondi's worst moments, and it went viral. You see her calling Jamie Raskin, a constitutional scholar, a washed-up loser lawyer. You see her unable to get basic economic data right, claiming the Dow Jones was at 50,000 when it wasn't. You see her laughing and smirking while survivors sat behind her. You see her treating the entire proceeding like a political rally instead of a serious oversight hearing. And the contrast was stark. Congressman Joe Neguse asked her about January 6th insurrectionists who chanted, "Kill the police," now working in her Department of Justice. He showed clips. He asked how that was possible. Her response? Well, they were pardoned. As if that explains why people who called for killing cops should be investigating crimes for the federal government. Let's talk about what this means for the Epstein investigation specifically, because that's what this hearing was supposed to be about. New documents have been released. New names are in those files. New leads exist that any competent law enforcement agency would pursue. But Bondi's Justice Department has done nothing. Todd Blanche, one of her deputies, previously claimed there were no leads to investigate. But at the hearing, we learned there are at least 6 names that demand investigation. Probably dozens, if not hundreds more. The survivors came to Congress looking for answers about why nothing is happening, and they left with nothing but contempt from the person who's supposed to be protecting them. The survivors had actually tried to help the Justice Department. They provided a list of over 100 names, their own names and others, to make it easy for Bondi's team to search through millions of documents and redact their personal information. They were trying to cooperate. And what did the Justice Department do? Nothing. They ignored the list. They released documents with survivors' names unredacted. Now these women, who had never even been contacted by the FBI because no investigation ever happened, have to live with their names public, associated with Epstein, while the people who actually committed crimes remain protected. And when they showed up to ask why, Bondi wouldn't even look at them. This is where the political fallout gets real. Eric Ericson calling for Bondi's resignation is significant because he's not a Democrat. He's not a never-Trumper. He's a conservative influencer who supported her. When the MAGA base starts demanding your attorney general be fired, you've lost control of the narrative. And Trump knows it. He's watching his party fracture in real time. The same week this hearing happened, 6 Republicans in the House voted with Democrats to strike down Trump's tariffs on Canada. He threatened them on social media, said he'd primary them all, but the vote happened anyway. Republicans are breaking ranks. They're seeing the political damage of associating with this administration, and they're choosing to distance themselves. And here's the thing about impeachment. You only need 218 votes in the House to impeach a cabinet official. Right now, Democrats are only a handful short of that number. They need maybe 3 or 4 Republicans to cross over, the same way Republicans crossed over on the Epstein file release, the same way 6 just crossed over on tariffs. It's not a far-fetched scenario. If Bondi keeps having performances like this, if more Republicans turn on her, impeachment becomes a real possibility. And Bondi knows it. That's why she was so defensive. That's why she was shrieking and calling people washed-up losers. She's terrified. The Department of Justice under Bondi is hemorrhaging talent. Career prosecutors are leaving in droves. They're being replaced by people whose main qualification is loyalty to Donald Trump. Job postings for DOJ lawyers now reportedly include requirements that applicants believe in Trump and his agenda rather than the Constitution. And the people they're hiring include January 6th participants, people who were pardoned after calling for the death of police officers. This is the department that's supposed to enforce federal law impartially. Instead, it's becoming a political operation designed to protect Trump and his allies. Look at how Bondi handled questions about clearing Trump. She never explained how she so quickly determined Trump had no wrongdoing despite all the documents with his name appearing in Epstein files. She never addressed why Trump's name wasn't redacted if he was cleared. She never explained the investigation, if there even was one. She just attacked the questioners. That's not how a serious law enforcement official operates. That's how someone acts when they're hiding something and hoping no one notices. The contrast with Merrick Garland came up repeatedly. Bondi tried to blame Democrats for not caring about Epstein earlier, but as one commentator noted, this is the first time anyone's accused Merrick Garland of doing too much work. The reality is that both administrations failed Epstein survivors, but Bondi's failure is happening now, in real time, with new documents and new leads and new opportunities for justice, and she's blocking it all while pretending to care. Trump is losing his mind watching this unfold. He's used to total control. He's used to loyalty. He's used to people doing whatever he says regardless of the consequences. But Bondi's meltdown was so bad that even loyalists can't defend it. Republicans in Congress are starting to calculate that tying themselves too closely to this administration might cost them in the midterms. And Trump's threats don't carry the same weight they used to. When 6 Republicans defy him on tariffs despite his social media attacks, the message is clear. His grip is slipping. For the survivors, this is just another betrayal in a long line of betrayals. They've been fighting for years. They've watched Epstein die in custody without answers. They've watched Maxwell get convicted while others walked. They've watched document releases that expose them while protecting the powerful. And now they watch the Attorney General mock lawmakers and ignore their existence while claiming she's on their side. It's devastating, but it's also clarifying. The mask is off. Pam Bondi is not there to investigate Epstein's network. She's there to protect it. So where does this go from here? Calls for resignation are mounting. Impeachment is becoming a real possibility. Republicans are breaking ranks on key votes. The midterms are approaching, and Democrats have endless material from this hearing alone to use in campaigns. Bondi's performance was so bad that it might actually unite both parties against her. Not on policy, but on basic competence and decency. When you can't answer whether you'll investigate sex trafficking, when you mock survivors, when you call lawmakers washed-up losers instead of answering questions, you've lost the ability to govern. Trump can replace Bondi. He can put someone else in that chair. But the damage is done. The Epstein files are out. The questions are being asked. The survivors are organizing. And every day that passes without accountability is another day that voters see a Justice Department that protects the powerful instead of prosecuting them. Bondi's meltdown wasn't just a bad hearing. It was a window into a corrupt system that's finally being exposed. And now that the MAGA base is turning on her, there's nowhere left to hide.